Good evening and welcome all. This is Rabbi Perl from Chabad of Mineola, who is taking this opportunity to share with you some of the highlights of the eulogy that was presented most recently at the funerals of dear Saul and dear Leah Feinberg of blessed memory. Shlomo ben Tzvi Yosef and Leah bas Shmuel. The Baal Shem Tov, who is the founding Hasidic master, once said to his students, "How do you conduct yourself at a funeral? What are you supposed to do?" And he said, you do three things. First, you cry, and certainly all of us feel the pain, feel the loss, and recognize the sadness of the occasion in general, in particular, that both dear Saul and Leah passed away some 36 hours and 7 minutes apart. And we extend our best wishes to the entire family, to the children, David and Seth, to Elliot and Sandy, to Victor and Honey, the many nephews and nieces, and great nieces, and the friends in the family who came to pay their respect. No one gets too old for this world, and therefore we understand the sadness and understand what the Baal Shem Tov said, that we cry. We're all crying and extending our best wishes to the entire family. Then he said, you have a moment of silence. We understand that too. There are so many questions we can ask of God. Why there are illnesses, why there's so many challenges in life. And we are allowed to ask God. Even the great Moses asked the famous question, seemingly, why do bad things happen to good people? But we've learned in our tradition that we accept. One day we'll get to know the answer, but at the moment we're in silence. In fact, Aaron, who was the high priest, the brother of Moses, he lost 2 children at the same time. And the Torah says clearly, Vayidom Aaron, which translates, he remained silent. He accepted the verdict. So we understand why we would cry, why we would have a moment of silence at a funeral. But the Baal Shem Tov went on to say that the third thing we do is to sing. And the obvious question is a funeral a time for singing? But he explains that every human being creates music in this world. You don't have to be a member of a philharmonic or a band, or even having an instrument. Just by very definition of being born, we're here to bring music to this world. And today, we come to gather to recognize the much music, the depth of music that both Saul and Leah brought to this world. And we should recognize that and go home, in a sense, to make our own moments of Saul and Leah, to learn from them. We also share the fact that in terms of schooling, Saul went to the Tilden High School, Leah went to Erasmus High School, and they were considered the creme de la creme of high schools in those days. Saul had also attended the Yeshiva of Flatbush, even in its earliest years, even before they had a high school. Both Saul and Leah were successful salespersons, each in their own way. Saul was a salesman for Feldman Lumber, a successful one, and so was Leah as a salesperson with J.C. Penney and Bloomingdale's. And David shared with me that most recently they found special pictures that were taken by the company of Leah and one of the highest one of the best salespersons. Also, we recognize how Elliot, I believe, yes, Elliot bought for his brother a beautiful tallis some 10 years ago. And dear Saul was laid to rest with this beautiful gift from his brother. We also recognize at a very critical moment, Saul bought a cell phone for his dear wife Leah. As you well know, from approximately January of this year, 2023, they were both going through their health issues, and dear Leah was at the Five Towns rehab. Saul made every effort to see his dear wife through thick and thin, and mostly found it much easier to actually accompany Leah for her chemotherapy sessions in Uniondale because of this easy access with the wheelchair, as opposed to a more difficult situation at the rehab. I also learned that Saul had a special way of describing the Jewish ambulance service, whose services he used several times to bring them to hospitals. It's called Hatzalah, and he used to describe it as Hatzlacha, which really is a term which means much success. David, who I thanked for giving me quality time to understand more about his dear parents and family, spoke a lot of the similarities of both his parents in a unique way, in terms of sometimes if one was cold, the other was cold, the other one was hot, the other one was hot. And David very movingly shared with us that at critical moments towards the end and at the end, David kissed his mother's hands, and they were cold. And David also kissed his father's forehead. It was cold as well. Now, this similarity really, in a broader sense, in a deeper sense, is brought to mind when we think about this issue of a husband and wife both passing away so close to each other, and whose funeral was taking place at the same time. It turns out that throughout their life, from the very beginnings, but all the way to the day of their passings and the day of the funeral, speaks in the depth about the duality or the doubleness that life presents itself. We all know, we recognize there is a double side to us. There's the physical side, and then there's the hidden side, the more spiritual side. All of us are on a journey from the moment we're born till the day when the Almighty calls upon us. It's a journey. Each of us journey as a member of the Jewish people on a national sense, but also we also travel as individuals as well. And this is highlighted by the fact that if you look at the July 18th, 1925, the birthday of dear Saul, he was born on a Shabbos, the 26th day of Tammuz, that's the Jewish date, on a double Torah portion, double, Matos Maseh. 2 portions were read that Shabbos, a double portion. He arrived on this world in a double fashion. 2 Torah portions. His bar mitzvah parsha were 2 of them. Dear Leah was born on October the 10th, 1937. It was a Sunday. And she passed away on a Sunday. And the Torah portion was Lech Lecha. Those are 2 words for the name of a portion, but they're a double wording. Lech Lecha. Speaking about Abraham's journey. So Saul was born when we're talking about the journey of the Jewish people with his double portion. And when Leah was born, it's speaking about the journey of Abraham. And so, dear Saul and Leah journeyed together through life, blessed with a beautiful family, and made an impact on this world. But it's even a little deeper, my friends. The first recognition of a husband burying his wife in the Torah was Abraham, when his dear wife Sarah passed away. And he buried them. He went and bought a burial plot in a place called Hebron in Israel today. That's called Kiryat Arba. And the actual name, Arba, means four. He specifically went to buy a property, a burial cemetery plots, reserved for doubles. And he bought the burial plot where Adam and Eve, the first double, were buried. Subsequently, he, with his wife, the doubles, were buried there. Then came Isaac with his wife, Rebekah, and finally Yaakov and Leah. So the first whole concept of burial and location speaks about zugos, which means doubles. So in a deeper sense, both Saul and Leah reflect that doubleness. Just as we have our matriarchs and patriarchs, Saul and Leah played their role in future generations in their double, and, at this stage of life, being laid to rest in a double fashion. What makes this even more deeper, my friends, is that David shared with me that their day of anniversary, of wedding anniversary, was Sunday, August the 7th in 1960. When I asked David how many years were they married, he says just shy of 63 years, right? Because April 7th is just a couple of days from now. But when you look on the Jewish calendar, that day on the American calendar corresponds to the 14th day of Av. And the day they were laid to rest on the Jewish calendar is exactly their wedding anniversary. They were absolutely 63 years married to the day. Making it even more is that when the question came up, because we didn't have direct requests from them, but how to be laid, side by side, it was determined by learned people that the most appropriate way to lay them to rest would be in the same manner, in the same positions as they began their life together under the chuppah, under the marriage canopy, where the man stands on the left and the bride, in this case Leah, stood at his right. And that's how they were laid to rest. My friends, all of us extend our best wishes. Appreciate the fact that on the calendar again, Saul passed away on a Friday, a day after the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, Tisha B'Av. So he passed away at the conclusion of a very sad week. Yet at the same time, dear Leah passed away on Sunday, just shy of 2 days, of a Wednesday. This is a week of the most joyous holiday, the 15th day of Menachem Av. So they both combined both what you would say the toughest side of life, and yet at the same time the happiest day of life. We as Jewish people have gotten used to that, where we are able to juxtaposition both aspects in life and appreciate that everything in life, both the most trying of circumstances as well as the most happiest of circumstances, are all really two sides of the same coin, very much reflected in the details that we are sharing about dear Saul and Leah. I take this opportunity on behalf of the entire congregation, on behalf of all your friends, to extend our best wishes to the entire Feinberg family and to the entire Berger family. was an honor to meet the extended family, and they were laid to rest in the most traditional and the most meaningful manner, with so many people who knew them, and even didn't know them specifically, were all there to honor their great souls. On a personal note, we will never forget how both Saul and Leah attended our community Seder at Chabad of Mineola, and we look forward to hearing only good news and long life to the entire family. May their souls be bound up in the bond of eternal life.